divide whole numbers and fractions, okay? But before we do that, we're going to practice something that was taught earlier in Module 4, okay? You're going to like this. It's pretty simple. Whoops. So let's go ahead and we'll do the first few together and then I'll start pulling sticks. Okay. So we all know that the decimal that represents half is what? 5. Just 5? 0.5. Or 5/10, right? We all know that. But we need a strategy for figuring it out for the ones we don't know. So here's the strategy. I'm going to take 2 times something, which equals 100. What's that? 50. Then I'll take 1, write this down. This is your strategy. Then I'll take 1 times 50, which is 50. And then I'll write 50 hundredths as a decimal. And then I'll erase the 0. So what is it? 5/10, okay? So we'll use that same strategy. 4 times something equals 100. 25, like quarters. Okay, so 1 times 25 equals, so 25 hundredths is written 0.25. How you doing? Okay, this one's a little different. 4 times 25 again, right? So 3 times 25, think 3/4.
75.
75. So how do I write 75 hundredths as a decimal?
0.75.
Okay. Now, I notice my fraction is the same here. The only thing that's different is the whole number. So can I go ahead and write my fraction down and my decimal down? What do I do with the whole number?
Put it on.
Put it in the ones place. Very good. Okay? You have a very good understanding of decimal place values, so I think this is going to be simple for you. How many times am I going to do that today? Okay, so the next one. 25 times something. I think I'll start pulling sticks. Who said that? Jenny, you can be first. So she says 25 times 4. So 1 times 4. 4 hundredths. How do I write it? 4 hundredths. Okay, so here's what we just figured out, boys and girls. We figured out that the fraction 1/25 written as a decimal is 4 hundredths. Okay, the next one. Cadence. 25 times something. So 8 times 4. Okay. How do I write 32 hundredths as a decimal? Very good. So we just figured out that if you see the fraction 8/25, you can figure out it's 32 hundredths as a decimal. Now, the only thing different on the next one, Vaughn, is what? I put 3 where? In the ones place. So 3 and 32 hundredths. How you doing? You learned anything new so far? You did. You learned how to turn a fraction into a decimal. All you do is put it equal to 100. Okay, Josue, 5 times what equals 100? Now I'll give you a hint or a trick. You could think of 5 times something equals 10 and then put the 0 back on. So 5 times what equals 10? 2. So then put the 0 back on, so what will it be? 20. So 1 times 20 is, how do I write 20 hundredths, Josue? What? Just tell me. 0.2 what? 0. Do I need that 0? No. So 1/5 as a decimal is what, boys and girls? 2/10. Have I lost you? Okay. 5 times something equals 100. We just figured out it was 20. So 2 times 20. Miguel?
40.
Okay. How do I write 40 hundredths? Do I need that? So 2/5 as a decimal is what, boys and girls? 4/10. We're getting better at this. Okay. Try and figure out the next one. Pull a stick. Did you do the next one? So add the L. What did you get? This one's kind of tricky. Good. Now 140 hundredths. Huh? No. Stop. It's 140 hundredths. There's a couple ways to do this. You can do 140 divided by 100. So hop your decimal twice. That gives me 1.40. Or I could think of it this way. 140 hundredths. If I'm talking decimal place value, the last digit I write is in the hundredths place. So I would put the 0 in the hundredths place, 4 in the tenths, and the 1 in the ones. So your answer, 1.4. Abdi, I'll do the next one. That was kind of tricky. Let's do the next one. Okay, so 20 times what equals 100? 5. Just the opposite of what we did. So how do I write 5 hundredths? 5 hundredths. 0.05. Good. Okay. You already done? Jair, what's the next one? Okay, so 9 times 5 is? How do I write 45 hundredths? Okay. For the next one, there's not much different. Emiliano, what's the only thing that's different? There's a 4 in the ones place. Okay, keep going. Beverly. $14 hundredths. How do I write it? 0 point. Good. All right. The next one, George B. 50 times what? Good. What's 11 times 2? Good. How do I write 22 hundredths? Very good. How do you get in the hang of this, boys and girls? The next one, Cheney. What's the only thing that changes? So 3 and hundredths. Okay. The next one is kind of tricky and difficult, but I'll talk you through it, okay? So it says rewrite each multiplication sentence as a decimal times a decimal. So this one is going to be pretty simple. What decimal represents 1/2? 5/10. 0.5. So I'll just write 5/10 times 5/10 and figure out the answer. Now, there's something we need to think about. How many digits will be in the decimal place value? 2. Okay? So 5 times 5 is what? And I need 2 digits in the decimal place value. So what's my answer? 25 hundredths. Okay? On this one, I think it might be this a little bit different. 2 times 5/10. So what's 2 times, first of all? 10. How many will be in the decimal place value?
2.
So 2 times 5/10 will be 10 tenths. And you cross off the 0, so what is it? 1. Okay. So, by the way, what's a half times a half as a fraction? 1/4. Is 25 hundredths 1/4? It is. So it works out correctly. We did it right. Chloe, help me out here. We had a strategy for figuring out what a fraction is as a decimal, right? Okay, so over to the side, write that down. Chloe, help me finish this out so I can change 1/50th to a decimal. So 50 times what?
50 times 12.
Times 2.
And 2.
So 1 times 2 is, so 2 hundredths. Do you agree? Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this. 12 times 2 hundredths. Now I'm going to underline. So my answer will be in what place value, Jesus? No, I underlined 2 digits, the hundredths, okay? So, what's 12 times 2? I'll pull a stick. Emily, what's 12 times 2? So it's got to be in the hundredths, so my answer is 24 hundredths. Good. Oh, we just changed 1/50th, didn't we? What was it as a decimal?
200.
2 hundredths. So let's rewrite it as a decimal times a decimal. What place value will this answer be in? Huh? Thousands. I'm going to write that down so that I know where to put my digits, because this is a tricky one. Jesus, 5 times 2, what is it? So it's going to be 10 thousandths. Where did I put the 0? Where did I put the 1? We got it. Close. That's 10 thousandths. Could we rewrite that or say that differently? 1/100th. So 10 thousandths is the same thing as 1/100th. All right, George A. We've got to change 3/5 to a decimal. Write it down, boys and girls. Make it equal to 100ths. 5 times 20. So 3 times 20. 60. So as a decimal, what is this? What? 6/10. So I've got 6/10 times 7/10. George A., you want me to pull a different stick, or do you want to finish this one? Pull a different stick. Lexi. So what's 6 times 7? And what place value does my answer need to be in? Add those up. Huh? In the hundredths. So how do I write 42 hundredths?
0.42.
Very good. Okay, now, by the way, 6/10 times 7/10, they just put it right here, didn't they? So what's 6 times 7?
42.
What's 10 times 10? Is that what we just got, 42 hundredths? Pretty cool, isn't it? Decimals and fractions work together. Okay, so rewrite these as a fraction times a fraction. So we have to change 8/10 to a fraction. Let's see if Eurydia can do that. 8 over 10. Okay, how do I multiply fractions? Straight across. Okay, so 8 times 2, Eurydia. And 10 times 5. Now I need to simplify. What should I divide by? Yes. So Eurydia, 16 divided by 2. And 50 divided by 2. You got it. So that's my answer. Okay. All right. Next one. Dara, we have to change 9/10 to a fraction. Can you handle that? So how do I write it? 9 over 10? Yeah. Okay, so what's 4 times 9? 5 times 10. What will I divide by to simplify this? Same thing again, huh? Hey, I wonder, could I have crossed off ahead of time here?
Yeah.
What about on this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet I'm going to divide by 2 right here. And I bet I would divide by 2 right there, since I divided by 2 here. So 36 divided by 2. 15 divided by 2. Okay, so if I would have crossed off the 4 and 10, I would have got a 2 and a 5. Is that 19/25ths or 18/25ths?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Okay. This is a word problem. The label on a 118,000ths liter bottle of cough syrup recommends a dose of 10 milliliters for children aged 6 to 10 years. How many 10 milliliter doses are in the bottle? So the question I have to answer is right here. Okay? What can I cross off? Anybody know? No? Lexi,
Ages 6 to 10.
that's there to confuse you. Okay? So here's my problem. Now, I've got this bottle of cough syrup. They want to know how many doses are in it. Am I going to divide or multiply? Divide. Okay? So let's write it down as a division problem. And then we've got some conversions to do. Why can't I just go ahead and divide for me? Say it. I don't have matching measurements, do I? No, I've got a liter and a milliliter. Now, what's the prefix of milliliter? Milli or milla. What does it mean?
Small.
True. I need the meaning of it though. 10, 100, 1,000. What? 1,000. So I'm going to do something with 1,000. I've got an anchor chart over here. Wonder if it could help me. So I'm going from liters to milliliters. Write that down. Liters to milliliters. Let's see what I'm going to do with 1,000. It's going to be multiply or divide, right? Okay. So could I think of that like meters to millimeters?
Yeah.
Liters to milliliters? So what do?
Divide by
No, I don't.
Multiply by 1,000.
Multiply by 10 to the third power, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that could help us. So we're going to take 118 thousandths and multiply times 1,000. Fermine, help us do that. What is that little dot thingy called? A decimal. What am I going to do with the decimal? Move it to the right how many places? 1, 2, 3. So my answer in milliliters, 118 milliliters. Now I can divide by 10. Okay? So 118 milliliters divided by 10 milliliters. So divide it into 10 milliliter doses. Okay? Now how could I draw something for that? So each dose is going to have what? 10. But I don't know how many there are going to be, do I? I just know that each dose is going to be 10. So where's my question mark? Kind of in the middle, isn't it? Yeah. Or I don't really know how many at the end here. I could put it there. Either way. So, I'm going to pull a stick. Beverly, what's 118 divided by 10? Am I going to hop the decimal? How many places? Just one. Which way when I divide? Left. Okay. So just one place to the left. 11.8 doses. Okay. So 11 and 8/10. 11 and 8/10. Let's change it to a fraction. So 11 and 8/10. Do I need to simplify that? Yes? Divide by 2. Are you writing this? So 11 and 4/5 doses are in that bottle. So let's get on with the lesson today. Now, I only have one tape diagram on mine, but you have the correct number of tape diagrams. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions, okay? And do you notice how yours is a little bit moved over to the side? That's so you can write a division problem beside it and have plenty of room, okay? So the first couple problems do not include dividing by a fraction. But let's go ahead and practice them anyway so we can get the hang of it with the tape diagram and the number line, okay? So let's start by, if Jenny Jenny buys 2 pounds of pecans, okay? And she's going to separate them into bags. So that would mean you're going to divide, okay? The first bag that she decides to make is going to have 2 pounds in each bag. So how would I show that on a tape diagram? That's going to be kind of hard to show. How many total pecans do I have? 2. How many will be in each bag? 2. So how many bags do I have?
2.
Let me write this. 2 divided by 2. 1 bag. Very good. Okay? So that's why my numbers match, because this tape diagram represents the 1 bag. Okay? Now, if I'm going to put that on a number line, I would have 0 and 2, correct? Do I need my whole number in between? Why?
No, because it's over.
No. Okay, so here's what I want to tell you. When you're making these number lines, put your end marks right even with your tape diagram, and that will help the tick marks go easier, okay? All right, I'm going to erase most of mine, and we're going to make a new problem, okay? So the next problem is, she has 2 pounds of pecans. You don't have to erase, you're just going to write it down below. She puts 1 pound in each bag. So 2 divided by 1. So I would draw it like this. How many bags will she have? These represent my bags. So how many bags? 2 bags with 1 pound in each. Okay? How you do it? It's too simple, isn't it? On the number line, now I need a tick mark and another whole number, don't I? These each represent, so if I did a bunny hop, that would represent 1 bag, and this would represent 1 bag. So I would have 2 bags. You don't have to do a bunny hop. Okay? All right, so let's change it a little on the next one. So go ahead and get the next one set up. You can go ahead and put your 0, your 1, and your 2 on the number line, and we're going to have a different problem. This time, I think we're down to C, aren't we? We're going to put a ½ pound in each bag. So it's going to be 2 divided by a half. 2 divided by a half. Okay? You didn't miss very much. Just start on the first tape diagram. Yours will be different than theirs. Okay, so I still need my whole numbers, right? Yeah. But this time, I'm going to divide each whole number into halves. I'm going to change the color of my pen. And each of these will be a half. What does this look like on a number line? All right, so now each one of these boxes represents the bags. So I'm going to go ahead and write my answer. What's my answer? 4 bags, right? Okay, so this is the easiest way to do the tape diagram. I mean the number line. Just put your tick marks right where you put those lines on the tape diagram. Now how do I label this? 0 halves, 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves. Now you can't think of 4 halves as a division problem because 4 divided by 2 is 2, and we don't have 2 bags, do we? We have 4 bags. Okay, let's keep going. So now we'll do 1/3. You'll get the hang of this, and then I'll teach you the standard algorithm trick. So the only thing I'm erasing here, I'm changing a half to a third, aren't I? Okay. So 1 half, are you writing these problems down as you go? Because I left you room over there to write them. If you forgot to write them, just start writing them now. Okay? All right, so what if she puts a 1/3 pound in each bag? What would I divide each whole into that time? Thirds. I didn't change the color of my pen. Are you confused? Maybe a little. So each of these will be a 1/3. Okay. So how many bags do I have now? Just count your boxes. Did everybody count 6 boxes? Or 6 parts to your tape diagram? Okay. All right. So now I've got to show thirds on my number line. This is good practice for remembering how to label a number line, I guess, since we have a math test coming up. So 6 copies of 1/3, right? Okay. Now I want to do 1/4, and then I want to show you how this relates. Well, I'll show you that in a minute. I'm going to show you how it relates to multiplying fractions, but not yet. Okay, so let's change it to 1/4. You get your set up, I'll get mine erased. Anybody want to take a guess on what they think the answer is going to be? You think it might be 8? How'd you come up with 8? Who said that? 2 bags divided in, or 2 pounds divided into fourths. Okay, so we will divide each pound into fourths. What goes in each box here? 1/4. Okay, so now my tick marks, I'm going to need 3, aren't I? And go ahead and label your fractions. I wonder if I'm going to get to 8/4. If I need to write my problem still. Was he right when he said 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So, let's talk about the difference between multiplication and division. okay? You don't have to write this down, but what if I did 2 times 1/4? What's my answer here? 2/4, which is 1/2, right? But we'll leave it 2/4, okay? And if I'm doing 2 divided by, are you okay? Yeah. 2 divided by 1/4, what was my answer? 8, okay? So let me get this straight. If I multiply a whole number times a number less than 1, my answer is going to be less than what I started with. Is that good? If I divide a whole number by a number less than 1, my answer is going to be more than what I started with. I know it's hard to understand, but aren't multiplication and division opposites?
Yes.
So it sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Here in a little bit I'm going to teach you a trick, but let's do a few more tape diagrams. So go ahead and turn your paper over. Okay, don't label any of those tape diagrams yet because this one is different. Okay, it says Jenny buys 2 pounds of pecans. Okay? If this is half the number she needs to make pecan pies, how many pounds will she need? So this is a different question. Okay? We need to clarify what this is talking about. Jenny buys 2 pounds of pecans. If this is half the number she needs, what is this talking about? The what? Did you say 2? Oh, he said 1. What do you think this is talking about? The
2 pounds.
The 2 pounds, good. The 2 pounds of pecans. So I'm going to substitute the number 2 for this because it's going to be easier to understand. So let me reread this. It says, Jenny buys 2 pounds of pecans. If 2 is half the number she needs to make pecan pies, how many pounds will she need? So, first of all, what's my denominator? 2. So divide it in half. 2 is half of what she needs. 2 is half of what she needs. What does she need?
4.
Is that what we got when we did 2 divided by 1/2 the other way? Did we get 4? Look back and see.
Oh, yeah.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool, isn't it? 2 different ways to write it. Now, the thing I don't understand very well, but I'm just going to go ahead and go with it. 2 divided by half is the same thing as 2 times 2 equals 4. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the number line is what I'm struggling with, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how we label it. Maybe I should have watched all of Dwayne's video, huh? Okay, so on the number line, we're just going to have 0 and 1 here. And we're just showing our halves I'm not figuring out how that's relating to, maybe it's because we would have 2 copies of this on the number line. I'm not sure. We're just going to go with it though. So let's do the next one. All right. The next one says if this, which is 2, right? If 2 is 1/3. So if 2 is 1/3 of what she needs, how many pounds will she need? So what's my denominator?
3.
Okay, so I need 3 equal parts. Kids, I'm changing this to where it makes sense to me, okay? All right. So what goes in each part? 2. I already marked thirds, didn't I? Okay. So 2 divided by 1/3 is going to be 2, 4, 6. How many pounds will she need?
6.
So this technically should be a 6, shouldn't it? And that should be a 0. Okay. And each one of these would be whole numbers. What whole number would this be?
2.
What whole number would this be?
4.
Okay. So my fractions would be 0/3, right? And then 3 times 2, no. 1/3, 3/3, this would be 6/3. What would this be? 8/3? And this would be 12/3. But you can't do it as a division problem. Do you think that's why they didn't do it like that? Because the fractions don't make sense?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I think we would have 6 parts between each of these, wouldn't we? Let's see. That's 6 parts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's where we would get our answer. Who cares about the fractions? Okay. That's my method of it. That's the Mrs. Lou's version. Okay? Let's do the next one. So the next one is going to be 2 divided by what?
1/4.
1/4. So what's my denominator? 4. So how many equal parts to my tape diagram? 4. Okay. So each of these 1/4 is a total of 2. So you're thinking 8's going to be the answer?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if I were to do this, I would have 8 here. Correct? And this would be 2, 4, and 6. And if I did it right, I should have 8 parts between the 0 and the 2. So there's 1. Is that 8? You're already done. Okay. So that's how we're going to do the opposite way of dividing. What do you think? I don't know. Okay, so we're going to do one more problem and then I'm going to show you the trick. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the problem. I think this is, I don't know what it is. It's either teen, tine, or tien. Tien sounds best to me, so that's what I'm going to call it. What? Yes. Tien wants to cut 1/4 foot lengths from a board that is 5 feet long. How many boards can he cut? Okay, so let's start with, do we have a total here?
Yes.
What is it?
5.
5. Okay. And so how many whole numbers will I have? 5. And I'm going to go ahead and put those on my number line before I do anything else so I'm not confused. So this will be 1. Can we read your number line? Not talking to anybody specifically, George B. Okay, make sure you can read your number line, okay? All right, so each fifth or each whole is cut into fifths, right? No fourths. Now I'm guessing if I counted those up, there would be what? 20 of them. So 5 divided by 1/4 equals 20. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to label this number line, but I'm only going to put certain things on it. You agree? Let's just put the whole numbers, okay? So 0/4. Guess I better get my tick marks on there, though. Okay. So the next one, 8/4. Then 12/4.
16/4.
And 20/4. Okay. So, are you ready to learn the trick for dividing with fractions? Okay. You probably don't have a blank back to work with, but you might have some blank spaces somewhere. Or you can get a piece of scratch paper. So let's redo one of the problems we just did, but use the trick, okay? Write this trick down at the top. Skip, dot, flip. Yes. Now, on Monday, before we take our math test next week, we are going to make an anchor chart with all our fraction information about what we have to do, okay? I don't have to take stuff down. Okay? All right, so let's do the problem we just did. That was 5 divided by 1/4. Write that down, okay? And then do equals, equals. All right? Equals, equals. Diane, get a piece of scratch paper to write on. Okay, so skip. What does it mean? It means I'm going to skip doing anything to this 5. I'm going to leave the 5 the same. So I'm going to write down just a 5. Okay? Dot. What does a dot mean in that? Decimal. There's another meaning for it. Same as a decimal. Okay, how would I solve this problem? Times. It means to multiply. So dot means to multiply. Write that down. Flip. What do you think that means? Flip the number around. So I'm going to take this 1/4, flip it around, and it's going to be 4/1. Which is the same thing as 4, right? So 5 times 4. There you go. Let's do another one. That's the answer. Didn't we get 20 when we did it before? Yeah. Okay, let's do another one. I'm going to try and make them a little harder, but we'll get the hang of it first. Okay? So let's do 3 divided by 1/6 equals equals. Okay, I'm going to pull a stick. George B, skip. What does it mean? Keep the 3 the same. Good. Dot. Vaughn, what does the dot mean? Multiply. Good. 3 times. All right, the next one is Dara. What does flip mean? You flip the 1/6 around. So it becomes 6/1, which is 6 divided by 1, which is 6, right? So 3 times 6 is? Okay, now we're going to make it harder. Think you can handle that? Okay, so we'll write another one. Okay, ready? All right, let's do 3 divided by 2/5 equals equals. Okay. So Jair, skip. What does it mean? Keep the 3. Skip doing anything to it, right? Skip over it. Okay. What does the dot mean, Emily? Multiply. Okay. What does the flip mean, Chloe?
You have to flip the 25 around so it'll be 5.
Good. Okay. So it'll be 5 halves. How do you solve this problem? 3 times 5.
15.
15 halves. Right? Okay, change that to a mixed number. 7 and 1/2. You're done. Now, would you like a harder one? One more.
Okay.
It's okay, it's okay. No, I'll show you tomorrow. If this is half the number she needs to make pecan pies, how many pounds will she need? Now, I don't want to know the answer yet. I want to know what this is talking about, Aiden. Okay, so it's really a 2, okay? I'm going to substitute a 2 for the word this in all 3 of these problems because that's more specific and that's giving us more information. So if 2 is half the number she needs, so what's my denominator? 2. So I need 2 equal parts. And if 2 is half of the number she needs, by the way, 2 divided by 1/2 is our problem. Should I pull a stick here? Or just say the answer, Aiden? What's the answer? 2 divided by 1/2. You held it up to start with. No, he went like this. 4. Okay, so on that other page when we did 2 divided by 1/2, did we get 4 for our answer? Yeah, but we had 4 bags, didn't we?
Yeah.
This time we have 4 pounds that we need, so we would change this to 4. Okay? What does this look like on the number line? This is the Mrs. Lewis version of what it would look like on the number line. Okay? You can put your tick marks exactly where the edges of the tape diagram are. This is a 0. What's my answer?
5.
What? 4. What would be halfway? 2. So I'm just going to put fractions at the bottom of these whole numbers. Okay? So this would be 0 halves. 2 would be how many halves? 2 halves is 1 whole. 4 halves. And what would this be? 8 halves. Okay? All right, let's keep going. You can set it up the same way, but we're going to divide a number other than 1/2 now. So you'll have to take this middle part out. Okay? So 2, if 2 is 1/3 the number she needs, so what's the denominator?
3.
So I need 3 equal parts. And what goes in each one?
1/3.
2. This is just another way to write it. So how many pounds does she need, Carson? 6. So 2 divided by 1/3 equals 6. Okay? So this will be 6 right here. This will be 0. Then I need tick marks for 2 and 4, because we're counting by 2s, aren't we?
Yeah.
So this is going to be 0/3. What will 2 be? 6/3. Good. We're counting by 3s. 9/3. 12/3. That wasn't right.
Is it going to be on the recording? Wouldn't number 4 be 12?
Yes. Okay, so it's going to be 0/3, 6/3,
12/3.
12/3,
18/3.
18/3. Good. Okay, so we've done A, we've done B. Let's do C. And then I'll teach you the trick after our last problem. How's that sound? You think you figured it out? Okay. All right, so let's read the next one. If 2 is 1/4 the number she needs So 2 is 1/4 the number she needs. So what's my denominator?
4.
4. So I need 4 equal parts. Bear's missing a good one, isn't she?
Yes. She just completed it.
Okay, so what goes in each box this time?
2.
2. It's a different way of writing it. And we have fourths this time, don't we? My answer's 8. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8. Now on the bottom, it's going to be different though, because it's 1/4. Okay, so help me out here. 0,
8.
8,
16.
okay. Now, Zerd might not do your number line like this. I apologize if it doesn't, but I think you'll be able to figure it out. Okay? As long as you have fourths. So what's my answer here?
8.
Okay. Let's move on to problem 3. All right.
That's the last problem.
And then I'm going to teach you the trick.
We're good on time.
Time, I don't know.
Tien.
Tien wants to cut 1/4 foot lengths from a board that is 5 feet long. How many boards can he cut? Okay, do we have a total?
Yes.
What is it, Samaja? So 5 feet is the length of the board. So 5, are you writing these down?
Yeah.
Divided by 1/4. Okay. Now, first of all, how many holes do I need here?
4.
I need 5 holes, which would be
10, 6.
4 lines. Okay, now don't write 1/4 in each of those, because I have to divide each hole into fourths. So that's going to look like this. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you write all those.
Oh. I already started.
Well, you can draw the lines, but you don't have to write all the 1/4.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Now on this number line, by the way, how many do you think are here? 20? You think it's 20? Okay. So on this number line, let's just go ahead and mark the whole numbers to start with. Okay. And I'm going to make my tick marks. But I think I'll just go ahead and put fractions on the whole numbers again. So if this is fourths, it's 0/4. Then what? 4/4. 8/4.
24.
Okay, so the answer is 20. All right. So that's the lesson I want to do today, but I want to show you the trick. So I'm going to pause it for a minute while we get scratch paper. Okay, remember I said I was going to teach you the trick. Okay? So here's what I want you to write at the top of your paper. Skip, dot, flip. Just write it down. Now, remember how Cadence went to school in another state? They didn't teach her skip, dot, flip. They taught her, you don't have to write this, but they taught her K, C, F. Kind of like KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, but KCF, okay? So here's what skip means. Keep the number, don't change it. Dot, you have to change. Flip means you're going to flip it around upside down. Okay? Now let me give you an example of a problem. Let's do 4 divided by 1/2. Go ahead and write that down. Equals and then equals. Okay? So skip, what does it mean?
Just keep the number.
Keep the 4. So write the 4 down. Dot, what does it mean? Change it. So we're going to change to something else. But first we have to figure out what the dot means. It's not a decimal. It's actually means add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Let me give you an idea. What do you think the dot means? Multiply. I think you learned it in 3rd grade if you were paying attention. Okay? It's one of the ways to write multiply. So if the dot means to multiply, all I have to do is write a multiplication sign. So that's why Cadence learned to change it. Okay? Change it to a multiplication sign. The division changes to multiplication. Flip, what did I say that meant? Flip it around. So I'm going to take this fraction and flip it around upside down. Now, we all know that this is actually a whole number. 2 divided by 1 is what?
20.
So what's 4 times 2?
8.
That's your answer. Skip, dot, flip. Keep, change, flip. Okay, so let's do another one. You won't be able to erase, so just move down. Okay? All right. Let's do 4 divided by 1/7 equals. Aiden, what does the skip mean? Keep the 4. Good. What does the dot mean, Adriel? I wrote it over here. Multiply. Okay. And so, Lynn, what does flip mean?
That means to change the 7 and 1 to 7/1.
Good. So from 1/7 to 7/1. 7/1, 7 divided by 1 is 7, right? So 4 times 7 is?
28.
And you're done. Okay? Now I'm going to make it harder. That's pretty easy with a unit fraction. A 1 as a numerator. Let's change it to something that's not a 1. So let's do this. Let's do 4 divided by 3/7 equals. And let's use the same strategy. So skip means what, Jocelyn?
Leave keep the 4.
Keep the 4. Okay. Lorenzo, what does the dot mean?
Flip it over. Multiply.
Multiply. And McKenna, what does flip mean?
3/7 to 7/3.
Okay, so now we've got an extra step because I'm going to have to divide something. So I've got 4 times 7, what's that?
28.
28 divided by 3. Now you know me, I love my long division method. 3 times something is close to 28.
9.
3 times 9. No, I'm dividing by 3. So that's 27. So my answer is 9 and
1/3.
9 and 1/3. Okay? All right, let's do one with 2 fractions and then we'll stop. Thanks for being patient and doing all this.
Why don't you times like 7 times 1? 7 times 3.
Okay, so I'm going to do 2 fractions. I'm going to do 2/5 divided by 2/3 equals. Okay? So, Samaja, what does the skip mean? Keep the 2/5. Don't change it. What does the dot mean, Nikayla? Multiply. What does the flip mean, Elizabeth?
Turn 2/3 into 3/2.
Okay. How do you multiply fractions?
Across.
Multiply across. What's 2 times 3?
6.
What's 5 times 2?
10.
Do I need to simplify this?
No.
Yes.
Oh yeah, you can.
So 6 divided by 2?
3.
So the answer to this problem is 3/5.
Can't you
Good
just
job.
can't you just cross off the 2s?
So Lynn, tell me that again.
You just cross off the 2s and then 1 times 3 is 3. And 1 times
I was in such a big hurry, I forgot I could just cross off those 2s.
That's awesome.
Okay, good job. So Lynn, thank you.